This is Sean Radcliff. Welcome to another episode of Preservation Oaks. In this series, we introduce you to professionals from museums, cultural, genealogical, and historical societies across the United States. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Good day, everyone. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you joining us, and we have a great program for you today. In this installment, we delve deeper into the rich heritage of the Wolverine state of Michigan. Today, we're in the company of Ms. Sharon Jett, Director of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum, located in Kent County within the quaint town of Cedar Springs. Tucked away in Morley Park, just off South Main Street, the Cedar Springs Historical Museum offers visitors a captivating journey through time. Noteworthy among its exhibits is the meticulously restored one-room Payne School, relocated to the park in 1971, offering a vivid portrayal of a bygone era in public education. Situated north of Grand Rapids, Cedar Springs exudes charm and vitality, offering an abundance of activities to cater to diverse interests, from outdoor pursuits and artistic endeavors to a rich tapestry of history and culinary delights. Whether you're a local resident or a passing traveler, prepare to immerse yourself in exploration and forge unforgettable experiences as we present insights into Cedar Springs, Michigan, and the Cedar Springs Historical Museum. I'm Sean Radcliff, broadcasting from Salt Lake City and guiding you through this episode of Preservation Oaks, the original talk program on MicroStream Radio, where we showcase museums, cultural and heritage institutions, associations, historical and genealogical societies, and history-focused media creators across the United States. By the way, our main platform is preservationoaks.podbean.com, but you can find us on nearly all podcast platforms as well as Rumble, Getter, Minds, TikTok, Facebook, Odyssey, and YouTube. So wherever you listen to the program, I appreciate it very much when you like, comment, follow, or subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on our program, or if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at preservationoaks@gmail.com. Additionally, we would greatly appreciate it if you could share the program with your friends, colleagues, and others. Your support in spreading the word will help expand our audience and bring more attention to the unsung heroes of Preservation Oaks. Thank you for helping us get the word out. On our next episode of Preservation Oaks, we greet Mr. Alexander Tolksdorf from the Ford Genealogy Club. This is a very interesting organization consisting of Ford employees, Ford retirees, and their spouses who are interested in genealogy. My hat's off to this group in preserving the genealogy and the genealogical discipline for Ford employees and retirees and their spouses. It'll be an interesting episode for sure. All right, that being said, let's get this show snapping. Our historical March events for this episode. We hear a lot about the Supreme Court these days. Well, the United States Supreme Court convened for the first time on March 1st, 1790. Also on March 1st, 1803, Ohio became the 17th state to be admitted to the United States Union. On March 3rd, 1845, Florida became the 27th state to be admitted to the Union. On March 3rd, 1885, American Telephone and Telegraph Company, AT&T, was formally incorporated in New York to create the first nationwide long-distance network. On March 3, 1893, was the opening of the iconic 13-story, 450-room Waldorf Hotel in New York City. On March 4th, 1794, Vermont became the 14th state to be admitted to the Union. On March 5th, 1956, United States Supreme Court upheld a ban on racial segregation in state schools, colleges, and universities. On March 11, 1892, the first public basketball game was played in Springfield, Massachusetts. On March 12, 1912, the Girl Scouts of the United States were founded by Juliette Lowe of Savannah, Georgia. On March 15, 1820, Maine was admitted to the Union. On March 16, 1751, happy birthday to James Madison, the 4th U.S. President. He was born in Virginia. On March 18, 1837, happy birthday to Grover Cleveland, the 22nd and 24th United States President, who was born in Caldwell, New Jersey. On March 20th, 1854, the Republican Party was founded by anti-slavery activists who opposed the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The Kansas-Nebraska Act was an act that allowed for the potential expansion of slavery into the Western territories. On March 20th, 1922, the United States Postmaster General required all American homes to have a mailbox. Hey, thanks to POPLAD.com for the historical events for this episode. Let's drink some tea, some Twinings tea. Hot and good. Love Twinings tea. And now here's a short biography we wrote for today's guest. Sharon Jett, a notable figure in Cedar Springs, is more than just a director of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum. She embodies the living spirit of the town's heritage. With a tenure spanning an impressive 44 years, Sharon's commitment to preserving the rich tapestry of Cedar Springs' past has been unwavering. Born and raised with an innate curiosity for history, Sharon's roots in Cedar Springs run deep. Since 1979, she has called this quaint town her home, immersing herself in its culture and stories. Her familial ties to the area date back generations, connecting her intimately with the community's legacy. Sharon's journey into historical preservation began over 4 decades ago, fueled by her passion for genealogy research. It was this keen interest that led her to the doors of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum, igniting a love affair with its artifacts, narratives, and the stories they hold within. From that moment onward, Sharon became an integral part of the museum's fabric, dedicated to safeguarding the town's history for future generations. Beyond her professional endeavors, Sharon is a devoted family woman blessed with 4 children and 9 grandchildren. Her love for her family mirrors her commitment to Cedar Springs, intertwining her personal and professional lives in a seamless blend of heritage and legacy. Throughout her tenure as director, Sharon has overseen countless exhibitions, educational programs, and community initiatives, each aimed at fostering a deeper appreciation for Cedar Springs' past. Under her guidance, the museum has evolved into a beacon of historical information, welcoming visitors from far and wide to explore the town's vibrant history. And now let's welcome our guest. Welcome to the program, Sharon.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Hey, what drew you to Cedar Springs, Michigan? And what aspects of its history or culture fascinate you the most?
Well, we lived in Muskegon, closer to Lake Michigan, in a nice little subdivision, but we were looking to get further out in the country and started checking, commercial ads for properties. And we found a 140-year-old farm on 10 acres in Cedar Springs. I was tickled because I had ancestors from this little town. So, of course, we had to check it out and fell in love instantly with the farmhouse and the whole area. I guess the history at that point was my family history that drew me here, culture and the fact that I had one of the earliest settlers here in Cedar Springs. His name was Count Pulaski Phelps. He was born in New York and migrated to Michigan, came here probably about 1850, and he was actually a Civil War veteran. He was wounded at Gettysburg and at Falling Waters, and I did a lot of research on him. He's kind of one of my favorite ancestors. So Count Pulaski Phelps.
Wow, Count?
Yeah, he was named after the Revolutionary War veteran, Count Pulaski.
Wow.
He was a famous Revolutionary War general.
What a wonderful heritage. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you share a lesser known fact or anecdote about Cedar Springs that you find particularly intriguing?
Well, many people today may not realize that back in the 1850s, Cedar Springs was a really heavily wooded area, but it had a lot of springs in it. It was actually truly Cedar Springs, a big forest of cedar trees and many flowing wells in the area. We even had a tavern in town for over 100 years that there was a trap door in the floor, and they would keep the beer down in that flowing well to keep it ice cold back before we had a lot of refrigeration. So yeah, we had lots and lots of flowing springs.
That's amazing. And where are all those springs today?
A lot of them are covered up. Of course, the ones around town are, except there is one down on the north end of town, I should say up on the north end of town, that is probably the most important one as far as the history of our town goes. What happened was pioneers were starting to come into the area, and the path that was followed up here was an old Native American trail, or probably at that time it wasn't old, it was still being used. And it gradually turned into maybe a two-rut road because of the pioneers heading north. And this family, Mr. John Smith and his wife Lydia, in 1851, they came here and they set up a sawmill in the area because the area was so heavily wooded. It was great for the lumbermen coming through. He even had the post office at his sawmill for years because there was just very little people up here, very few people. And it was quite common if there was any establishment in the area in that day and time that a post office would ask to be set up in their home or their business so that people could get mail. About 1852, he bought 700 acres of land in Solon Township, our township here that the museum sits in. And he and his wife were the earliest settlers in this area of northern Kent County. And they experienced all the privations of the pioneer. Their home was a log cabin in the forest, and for a long time it was the Pioneers Hotel, and liberally patronized. 1 year from February 12th to May 1st, Mrs. Smith cooked 1,000 pounds of pork. Now, if you think about it, in 1852, to be able to feed that many people, you know there was a trail of people coming through Rockford and then Cedar Springs, our little town, and then further north, lumbermen, people looking to homestead. It was just a remarkable amount of people that passed through their little log cabin.
Yeah.
The log cabin was actually set in a cedar grove right on the edge of the creek, which we call Cedar Creek, and next to their house was a flowing well. And they were referred to as the cabin next to the cedar trees in the springs. So we gradually became known as Cedar Springs.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Those were hardy people, you know?
They were. And when you think about how hard it was to eke out a living, you didn't go to the store and buy your food. You didn't go buy blankets or whatever you needed. You made them, or you grew them, or you did whatever you could to provide for yourself just off the land.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, I know your city is also known as the Red Flannel City.
It sure is.
Can somebody today order red flannel produced in Cedar Springs?
Absolutely. We have a young lady that grew up in this town. Her name is Courtney Haynes. About a year ago, she bought the Red Flannel Factory. People can reach her at this phone number. It's 616-322-9915, or they can check it out at redflannelfactory.com, all one word. We also have her products are sold at the Cedar Chest in town, a little store, and their phone number is 616-696-3876. And we have a brewing company in town who has a wonderful restaurant combined with their brewing company, and they sell the men's night shirts. The Cedar Chest sells everything else, the long johns and everything. The brewing company's phone number is 616-696-2337.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I may just call and go to redflannelfactory.com and try to get me some.
Yeah, they're very comfortable. I know my kids grew up. They all had them at different points in their life or different times in their lives, and they loved them. Of course, they wore them on the floats and the parades too.
Oh, very cool. Now, what role does the Cedar Springs Historical Museum play in preserving and promoting the town's heritage, and what are some of its notable achievements?
When the Historical Society started, it was 1964, and by 1976, a local family, the Wallace family, donated a one-room schoolhouse and had it moved into the little park here in town, Morley Park. That became our first museum, and it was full to the hilt. And after at least 25 years, we decided that we needed to start looking into the possibility of expanding. So we got permission from the city to build a museum next to the schoolhouse and restore the one-room schoolhouse to a teaching classroom. We try to bring as much of our history in to today's families as we can. We host programs. Our one-room schoolhouse is open to our area teachers to bring their classes to and spend a day in the old one-room schoolhouse and see what it was like for kids, 100 years ago. I guess that's probably our main goal, is to make sure that our history stays alive and that we introduce it to children when they're young and that they can have a wonderful time with it. That was 1996 is when we built our first section of the big museum now. And by 2010, we had already even before 2010, we had a need to expand again. So we went through the process again and we doubled the size of our building. We have so many items that I couldn't even begin to tell you. And every single thing here, some person brought their family treasure here and donated it so that it could be shared with everybody in the community. It's pretty remarkable when you walk through and see what we do have, and that people generously donated their family heritage here.
That's pretty remarkable. And you've been preserving it for many years.
Yes.
Now, do you have special ways of preserving things? You have a special storage methods, those kind of things?
We are very careful to follow true museum protocol. We have our photographs, which we have several thousand photographs. We have them in fireproof file cabinets, and each photograph is indexed and put in a sleeve and in a file according to the subject matter. We have acid-free boxes that we have collected over the years that we have a lot of artifacts in. We have 3 storage rooms that are packed full. We took one of our outside porches. It was, 6 by 30 or something like that. And we closed that in for the 3rd storage room because we had so many items brought in. And those items we're very careful about proper storage. And we have many military uniforms that we have in a cabinet. We take very careful care of that. We keep our temperature, we don't let it fluctuate too much in here. We just do everything we can humanly think of or learn to do to take care of the place.
Fantastic. Do you have an archivist come through from time to time and evaluate your methods?
You want to know something? I was never so proud of our museum. We actually won a little contest. Oh, this is probably 15 years ago that our state archives put on, where they would send an archivist to evaluate you. And we won. And they sent this young lady out to us, and she was very well educated. She was a remarkable young lady. She was very interested in Frank Lloyd Wright. That was one of her favorite subjects. But she spent a whole day with us, went through everything. And when she finally filed her report, she said, I have one recommendation for the Cedar Springs Museum, only one. And that is that you use white gloves more often. She felt that everything we were doing was right on mark, and that she was amazed. And she also told us that she tells her employers, her bosses at the Michigan State Archives, that the real history of Michigan or any state is in the small museums.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was so proud to go back and tell them, look what they're doing and look what they have. We have a collection of books from I think it was the 1898 World's Fair that she just drooled over. She could not believe. And there was a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright buildings in there.
Oh, she had to be very happy about that.
Oh my gosh. We just gave her time with the books and the white gloves, and she sat there and went through them. She loved it.
Oh, fantastic. Now, for somebody visiting Cedar Springs for the first time, what experiences or attractions would you recommend to get a true sense of the town's character and heritage?
Well, of course, the museum. I have to say us first, because we have a lot to show, and we know what's going on around town here too. We can guide people. But we have so many things. We have an amphitheater that's fairly new, was donated by another family in town, basically. It's down where the old railroad tracks used to be, behind our brand new library. And they bring in musical programs all summer. And I think there was some little dance groups and stuff like that came last summer to the amphitheater. Our library hosts many reading programs, quilt shows, many different kinds of programs there. They have a good meeting room they let people use. And we have a very nice variety of restaurants. We have anything you could ask for, from Thai food to fast food to the brewery. We have a restaurant called the Red Bird and Kelly's, and we just have so many different avenues for if you want to have a nice dinner out. We have a theater that is over 100 years old. It began as Hubbard's Opera House back in the 1800s, and has had, over the decades, many decades, graduations have been held there. We have beautiful pictures of our tiny little graduating classes back in the early 1900s, the late 1800s, and sitting on the stage in the old theater. And they also do different things besides showing movies. They'll have talent shows, and they'll have musical shows and things, whatever somebody drums up, and they get the people involved. And so the theater does a lot of that too. We have, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, the White Pine Trail.
No.
It's the old railroad bed. It used to be the Grand Rapids and Indiana Railroad, and I think later it was known as the Penn Central Railroad. But they've taken those tracks, and I think at least 50 or 60% of them have been paved already. Some are gravel, but it's open for people to, hike on, run on, ride their bikes on, and it travels from Grand Rapids to Traverse City. It's 93 miles long.
Oh, that's nice.
It is, and it's beautiful. And we have another trail system that I'm not real familiar with, but it's a hiking trail that crosses Michigan from east to west, and that comes through our town too. But that's relatively new, and I'm not real up on that. But I'm sure if you Googled something like that, you could find what the other hiking trail is.
Yeah, that's very cool when you have a resource like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I think from December to March, some sections of the White Pine Trail, they allow snowmobiles on. Otherwise, there's no motorized vehicles allowed.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes it really nice. You can hike. Mothers can take their babies in their carriages out there.
And they do. You see them all the time, people crossing the streets. There's little stop signs at each road and for the people on the trail to stop and get across the street safely. But you see people on their bikes and walking and pushing buggies and just a lot of people use it. I'm just amazed. When I first heard about it, I thought, well, that'll be cool. But I'm just amazed at how many people have just got so much out of that trail.
Oh, yeah. When I lived in the Bay Area in California, I used to ride 15 miles every day through the Bay Area just on a bike trail, and it was no motorized vehicles. And it was fantastic. Just go everywhere.
Yeah. And ours, trail is the White Pine Trail is very well taken care of. It's kept up, and a lot of the maintenance and the work with paving and everything was donated by Fred Meyer, who owns a large company, grocery stores in Michigan and Indiana, and I think 3 or 4 states. I'm not real sure, but it started right here in a little town of Greenville, just east of us. And Cedar Springs actually had the second Meyer store was right here in Cedar Springs.
Hobby.
Yeah.
Sharon, what unique challenges or opportunities do you face in safeguarding your town's heritage?
I would have to probably say, like any small museum, it's money. We have a wonderful facility. We have good people taking care of it, but our dream is to make sure that this goes on forever. And my personal dream is to be able to hire a well-educated, full-time director for the museum, be open more than we are now, and be more involved with the education of our area citizens and especially of our children in our schools. So I guess I would have to say that it would be having a bigger foundation under the museum to make sure that it does go on and it keeps doing its good. And I don't know, I guess that's it. I want the future to be as good as what our little past here has been.
It's very important, especially the time you've put in to the museum and all the things that you've accomplished and your volunteers have accomplished. It's important that it continues. Now, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the museum. The website is www.cedarspringsmuseum.org.
Yes.
You can find them on Facebook at Cedar Springs Historical Museum. Their mailing address is P.O. Box 296, Cedar Springs, Michigan 49319. Their visiting address is 60 Cedar Street, Cedar Springs, Michigan 49319.
Yes.
You can email them at cedarspringsmuseum@gmail.com. And their telephone is 616-696-3335.
That's right.
All right, thank you. Sharon, can you kindly share with the audience an overview of the demographic makeup of your membership and the mission and objectives of your museum?
Gladly. The makeup of our membership, it just covers every branch you can think of. A lot of the people on our board are retired educators from schools, colleges. We have blue-collar workers. We have a retired military people. We try to get as many young people over here as we can, but even our trustees for the board for the Historical Society we've had younger people on there as trustees. Some of them have gone on to college and we don't have them now, but we strive to try to keep a good selection of people. And our mission statement is that we will collect, preserve, exhibit, and educate on Cedar Springs and area history.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. How did you get so jazzed on history and doing this? I mean, you've been at the museum for several decades now.
Yeah. Actually, when we moved to town, I was working on my genealogy with my Count Phelps, my great-great-great-grandpa. And I saw in the phone book that there were many Phelps. So I called a lady, her name was Virginia Phelps, and she said, well, I know your grandfather's name. He was connected somehow to our family. I just don't know how. And she said, would you meet me at the museum on Sunday afternoon and we'll see if there's anything there. So of course I did, and I never left. She had me come into meetings, and it was kind of funny because I had my fourth little child, my daughter Krista was born. And at first I suspected that those ladies wanted me to come so they could pass my baby around the room. But as it turned out, they really wanted younger people involved. And now here, all these years later, I'm in the same position.
All
I
right.
wish we could get younger people, more involved. But yeah, because of my genealogy interest, I was drawn to the museum, and Virginia just never let me leave. And I'm so grateful she didn't, because it's turned out to be one of the loves of my life. I can't even tell you how much this place means to me.
Fantastic story. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm sure everybody, the volunteers, feel the same way about you.
Well, one can only hope. We have a really cohesive group here, and we have a lot of fun when we stop at noon to have lunch together. We all sit around the table in the library down here, our genealogy library, and we just love to tease each other and laugh our heads off. And it's just a fun place to be. And when people do come in and see this, they are more eager to join in. And I think our lunch table is one thing that brings more people back to us.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
That's great. And do you ever do like buffets or anything like that?
Yes, we do. We do a couple of times a year. In fact, this past fall, we decided to have a chili lunch. So we were making chili and all kinds of good stuff in our little back room here. And a couple of our local county sheriffs were parked out in the parking lot. A lot of times they'll sit out there when they're writing their reports, and they take good care of us. They watch our museum very good. So one of the members went out and said, "You guys come on and join us. We've got chili, crock pots full of chili. You come in and eat lunch with us." And they did, and they stayed quite a while. They said it was funny. They had actually been sitting there talking about going to Wendy's for chili, and we come out and tell them to come and eat with us. So yeah, we do, and we have like a Christmas potluck, and we do stuff for the community too. When we've had ice cream socials, and on Red Flannel Day we've given away free hot dog lunches and items like that. So yeah.
That's nice. Very nice. Very good for the community.
Yeah, lots of fun.
What's coming up on the horizon for the museum? Are there any upcoming exhibitions or events that the community should look forward to?
Hmm. Actually, for 15 years, we did a car show every summer. And once again, we offered free lunch, usually hot dogs, and we've had different groups that have provided them. We work with the high school, the Future Farmers of America. Those kids come and sell their maple syrup that they make, and we will be doing that again. As far as the car show, we're in the process of talking about it. It's a tremendous amount of work, and we haven't decided if we're going to go ahead and do another year. We were stopped because of COVID, like everybody else. We were not able to do so many things, and we're just now trying to get back on track with programs. But I'm sure we'll have speakers come in again, and possibly the car show again.
Oh, I hope you do. It's
Mhm.
hard to get back on track sometimes, but it's well worth it.
Yeah,
Get back
it
to
is.
normal a little bit more.
Hmm.
Can you tell us a couple of funny or interesting stories from your history?
I think one of the funniest stories that I ever heard about our town here was, I think that this was about 1900, and one of our local families had a general store. And in the back of that general store, he had a very large safe. So he started operating as a bank and loaning money to people and so on and so forth. And one night, two fellas decided that they were going to break in there and rob that safe. So they managed to get into the general store, and they had dynamite, which they put on the safe. And then they took 50-pound bags of flour and banked it around the safe, thinking that it would muffle the sound of the dynamite. Well, when the dynamite went off, it blew that flour all over the inside of the store and almost choked them to death. And people hearing the noise, looked out their windows and saw these two, what looked like white ghosts running down the street because they were covered in flour. And no, they did not get anything from the safe.
That's a good. Did they catch those guys?
I don't think they did. I don't
my
think.
Goodness.
No, but I'm sure that their bank robbing days were probably over.
I'm sure they never forgot that.
No. No, I'd love to know who they were. I would just
Oh,
love
yeah.
it.
Oh, I bet that was terrible cleaning that up.
Oh, can you even imagine?
No.
Because our stores, were quite long. They were wide, but they were quite long too. The buildings were.
Yeah.
So it would have been a huge, huge room that was completely covered in flour.
Plus, you know how they made paste in those days, water and flour.
Oh gosh, I hope no water showed up into the scene.
Well, they'd have to clean it up somehow, right?
Yeah, I think and they didn't have vacuum cleaners, did they?
No. Oh my
No,
goodness.
Mhm.
Well, what are some of the most memorable moments or experiences visitors have shared after visiting the museum?
We have, like I said, a really unique military display. We have donated to us from the Gerald Ford Museum. We have a display case that the Ford Museum had his uniform in, and we have uniforms and a few artifacts in there in that display case and other uniforms, around the case and everything. And we also have a bomb site from a German warplane. One of our military men, they raided a German airfield, and this bomb site in a wooden case was sitting on the airfield, and he stamped his name on it and had it shipped home, which, you could do during that time period. You can't do that anymore. And it was in their basement for decades, and then their family brought it in to us. Well, next to that stands a mannequin with a uniform on from a local man, and his name is Bill Rollins. He was in here recently, and I got to take his picture next to his uniform on the mannequin. But his granddaughter came in one day after school, and she was in high school, and saw that uniform of her grandpa and was so taken with the fact that her grandpa's uniform was in here. That young lady has brought more people back to see her grandpa's uniform. She's just so proud of it. She's brought relatives. She's brought classmates. It's just heartwarming to see that here we have a display that means so much to this group of people.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and another one, last spring we had 240 kindergartners come through the museum, and we're open some Saturdays during the summer, and this little girl comes in the Saturday after her class had been here, holding her mom's hand, and she was so proud to bring her mom here and show her mom the museum and all the things she learned about when she was here with her class the week before. And just the pride in that little girl just warmed our hearts. We were pretty tickled.
Nice story. Sharon, the music in the background means it's time for a break for a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hear this.
Are you ready to uncover the captivating history of Cedar Springs, Michigan? Look no further than the Cedar Springs Historical Museum. Located right in the heart of Cedar Springs, at 60 Cedar Street, this hidden gem awaits your discovery. It's not just a museum. It's a journey through time, right in your own hometown. Bring the whole family along for an adventure like no other. Whether you're a history buff, a curious explorer, or just looking for a fun day out, the Cedar Springs Historical Museum has something for everyone. Step inside and be transported back in time as you explore the rich heritage of Cedar Springs. From interactive exhibits to intriguing artifacts, there's so much to see and learn. But that's not all. Calling all genealogy enthusiasts and family historians. Bring your family records and your family tree, and let them be your guide. They're the leading resource for Cedar Springs genealogists, ready to help you unlock the secrets of your ancestry. Ready to dive into your family's past? Visit the website at cedarspringsmuseum.org for more information. You can also give them a call at 616-696-3335, or shoot them an email at cedarspringsmuseum@gmail.com. They can't wait to hear from you. Join, donate, and volunteer today. Come on down to the Cedar Springs Historical Museum and discover why they're so passionate about this wonderful town. Your journey through history starts here.
This is Carrie Eilder from the Cedar Falls Historical Society, and I love listening to Sean Radcliff on Microstream Radio.
This is Brian Stuckey from the Mennonite Heritage and Agricultural Museum located in Gossel, Kansas, and I enjoyed being a guest on Preservation Oaks with Sean Radcliff.
This is Brandon Brown, Executive Director of the Kiowa County Historical Museum in Soda Fountain, and I listen to Sean Radcliff in Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio.
This is Anne Marie Amstead, Director of the Sandy Historical Society, and you're listening to Preservation Oaks.
This is a reading of The Dash Poem by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So, think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real. And always try to understand the way other people feel. And be less quick to anger and show appreciation more. And love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering this special dash might only last a little while. So, when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash?
Bored? Yearning to hear something new? Well, you're about to be satisfied. Picture this. An episode of the Preservation Oaks podcast from Hawaii, where you'll learn about a hidden temple and bathing complex used by the Queen and the royal family themselves. Just dripping with intrigue and history. That's all covered in episode 2 with Dr. Paul Brennan. Now, try to think about something else. Can't, right? Well, you don't have to, because Preservation Oaks is available anytime at preservationoaks.podbean.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it very much when you like, subscribe, or follow us to hear every satisfying episode.
And now, back to the video.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Thomas Radcliff, and we're here today with Ms. Sharon Jett from the Cedar Springs Historical Museum in Cedar Springs, Michigan. Let's pick up where we left off. Welcome back, Sharon.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
What kinds of exhibits are on display in the museum and on the historical museum property?
On the property, we have an old stump puller out in the front yard. One of our earliest members here, Sally Grayvold, her family donated it, and it was actually used to clear the fields around Cedar Springs. Once the lumbermen went through, of course, the fields were just tree stumps everywhere. So the invention of the stump puller was a big tripod that they would hook to the roots of the tree stump, and they would try to chop and cut the roots of the tree stump as a team of horses was tied to that tripod and would actually pull the stump out of the ground. So, and that's how they cleared the fields after the lumbermen came through, so farmers could take over next. So that's our outside exhibit. We do have a few things on our porch. We have an old sawmill, and we have a giant whistle that was our noon whistle. Cedar Springs still today runs a noon whistle, and we have the old one sitting out on the porch. Inside, we have, of course, a genealogy library, which we're very pleased with, very proud of. We have an old parlor and kitchen set up. In our big room, we have everything from our Native American display, our lumbering display, railroad. We go right on around the room, and we have a general store set up. We have a ladies' millinery shop where dresses and hats were made. We have a display that's relatively new, that's electronics. One of our members that is real interested in that thing, Guy White, he took a lot of the items from the museum, but he also collected items and set up displays that show. We have a little old black and white TV that he plays the old Superman shows on, and we have everything from the old wooden box phone that hung on the wall to today's cell phones. You just wouldn't even imagine our telephones, the progress that we've made through phones from that old wooden phone box and up to our cell phones today.
It's amazing.
It is, and he has dressed a mannequin to look like Superman, and he's looking for a phone booth. He wants to put it next to that old TV and put our Superman mannequin in it so the kids can see Superman when they come here. We have a sleigh set up that we allow people to put their kids in and take pictures of them for Christmas. We have a photo gallery. It's kind of a long hallway that is full of old class pictures and town pictures. And our Native American display is, we've actually built a wigwam that the kids can go in and sit down. One half of the wigwam is kind of blocked off with a rail, and we have items displayed on that side. The other half of the wigwam, the kids can go in and sit down, and there's fur for them to feel, a bear skin and a fox fur and different, like a rat, a Native American rat, all different things that they can handle and touch and see. And my sister, Deb Pike, she painted a big mural behind the wigwam, so it really looks like you're kind of in that little corner, looks like you're in the country sitting in a wigwam.
Oh, that's very cool. Do you have any connections with the tribes at all?
Well, sort of. We have a lady that has agreed to wear her regalia, her clothing, her Native American clothing, and she is Native American from Michigan, and she's going to give a little historical talk about Michigan's Native Americans and have them we'll have that in the wigwam where kids can just push the button on a little video and watch one of our own Native people educate them.
Very cool. What tribes were in the area?
As far as I can tell, Ottawa and Ojibwa, I believe, were around our area the most, but there were the Chippewa. There were other tribes that came through the area because a lot of people would gather on the Grand River in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
And they still do. They have a big powwow every year down there. It's a fantastic thing to visit.
Wow, that's very cool.
Mhm.
Very cool. Do you have any collections exhibited anywhere else in the city?
Not right in the city. We have talked with City Hall a few times, and I think they're interested in putting a case up. But we do have a case that we had built special for Solon Township, and they have artifacts that really pertain to Solon Township, but from our museum on loan there.
Ah, very cool.
Mhm.
Can you discuss any recent conservation efforts or restoration projects related to museums exhibits?
I'll tell you, we had a desk from one of the railroad depots just south of us offered to us, and it was in pretty rough condition. And these desks are two-sided desks because the rural railroad depots had bay windows in them, and these desks were pushed up into that window. And the person sitting, on the north side could look out the window looking south and see the train coming, and the person on the south side of the desk could look out the window looking north and see the train coming. So these desks were pretty prevalent when it comes at least to the rural depots. And this desk came to us. Two of our members, Jack Heiss and Bob Reamer, took that desk. There was even a drawer missing. And they took it to Bob's workshop, and they completely restored that desk and rebuilt a drawer to put in where the missing drawer was. You can't even tell the difference. And everybody that comes in, we use it as our genealogist desk in our little library here. And everybody that comes in comments on what a gorgeous desk that is. So that was a big restoration project.
Very unique piece of furniture.
It is. We're really proud to have it.
Are there any plans to expand the museum's facilities or collections in the future?
The facilities in this spot, I don't think we could expand more. We're in Morley Park, and it's a park that a lot of people in town use. We have like a 100-year lease on our property right here. But I honestly think we've pretty much used up our space. We would have to go elsewhere to expand the facilities. The collections, always. And one of our conversations our board has had is, if we reach a point where our collection is too big to be stored right here in the museum, we may have to come up with a storage building. That might be in our future somewhere down the line. But right now, we're managing pretty good. But we always, anything that's important to the history of Cedar Springs, we're gladly take a look at and see if we can add it to our collection.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds like your community is very invested in donating artifacts to the museum. It's great.
They are, and they're very good about supporting us. Very good.
Now, I ask this of every guest. If your building were to catch fire, what things would you grab on your way out?
Oh my gosh, that's like a stab in my heart to even think of it. I definitely would have to take the hard drives. We have external hard drives that we have our indexes on and our pictures and stuff like that. That would be probably the easiest way to save the most. Like I said, we had several thousand pictures here, but they are in fireproof file cabinets. I would probably have to take the hotel register that is in our safe here because it has President Ulysses S. Grant's signature in it and Horace Greeley.
Wow.
The hotel register is from I think it was the 1870s. There was many hotels here in town because when you came to a town, that's the only place you had to live other than out in the woods until you were established. I was told by the Grand Rapids historian that there was a convention in Grand Rapids and a lot of politicians were there. And what they did was at night, they got on the trains and went out to the rural towns and stayed in rural towns so that they had contact with more people than just that group in Grand Rapids. It was good for them politically, of course, but they got to see a little more of the country too. So that hotel register, I would think, would be very important.
Yeah, very important. Yeah, I'd take that myself. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of funding model supports the museum, and what are your funding goals this year?
As far as our funding, we receive money from the city of Cedar Springs and also Solon Township. They're very generous with us and take good care of us. We have a lot of families that donate. When people become members, we do a quarterly newsletter, and the money from their memberships are part of our support. Very helpful to us, but also helps pay for the newsletter. Our funding goals this year, we try to come up with at least $15,000. $20,000 means that we can pay for programs to come in. That's pretty much where we stand with money right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. What type of fundraising activities or opportunities does your museum offer?
Fundraising activities, our car show was a major fundraiser for us. We usually earned about $4,000 off the car show. And that is probably the best that we do. When we do programs here in the museum, we don't charge people to come in and see, because we want everybody to have the opportunity to come in. But we do have a donation bucket out, and many people are very generous with their donations when they've come in and seen one of our programs. We've had everything from lumberman shows to railroad history. We had a lady come in that completely dressed from her undergarments all the way up to a great big full gown and dress from the 1800s. It was very PG. It was very suitable for families, but she showed all the different layers of clothing that women had to wear 100 years ago.
Wow.
So, and people are always generous when they come in for something. They're always generous with donations.
Now, do you do fundraising on Red Flannel Day?
Red Flannel Day, we are open, and we have a tractor show in our front lawn. Again, a lot of donations come through our door. We have several hundred people at any given time in the building. It's really amazing how many people we can fit in here. But we get quite a few people walking through, and many donations made. We have a little gift shop that we sell items in.
I bet that's a major fundraiser for you.
Yeah, it is. It does help a lot.
Fantastic. And did you have something you wanted to share about Red Flannel Day?
You know, I would like to read a little bit of the history. We have 2 pages here in a red flannel folder that goes out every fall. It's called the Red Flannel Press.
Okay.
And it gives a little better idea of where red flannels came from and the whole story. It all began in 1936 in the midst of the worst winter in years. The whole country suffered in the grip of heavy snow and sub-zero temperatures. A New York feature writer bemoaned the fact that here we are in the midst of an old-fashioned winter and there are no red flannels in the U.S. to go with it. The local newspaper, the Cedar Springs Clipper, owned and operated by the Clipper girls, Nina Babcock and Grace Hamilton, answered the writer with a red-hot editorial stating, "Just because Saks Fifth Avenue doesn't carry red flannels doesn't mean that no one in the country does. Cedar Springs merchants have red flannels." The story was picked up by the Associated Press, and orders began pouring in from all over the United States. Jack Pollock and his wife Ann, owners of the Pollock store downtown Cedar Springs, had a large stock of red flannels, and they were tireless supporters of the early red flannel festivals and drop cedars, which they called the red flannel underwear. Seeing the possibility of at least a few years of publicity from our famous drop cedars and lumbering history, a Red Flannel Day was planned for the fall of 1939. The love and pride and support of the community was kept in rich tradition alive and continued to be an annual event held the last weekend in September and the first weekend in October for 85 years now, making it the 15th oldest festival in Michigan. And then another article that was written by our genealogist here at the Cedar Springs Museum, Tanya Eldred, for this publication says, if you have lived in or near Cedar Springs in the last 85 years, you have heard the story of how the Cedar Springs became the red flannel town. Many times. You've heard it many times over. But we remember the efforts of the Clipper girls, Nina Babcock and Grace Hamilton, to get the red flannel town on the map. How many people remember that? When they answered the wire from the Associated Press, it was just the beginning. Metropolitan newspapers and the radio took up the cause and spread the word. They received a flood of letters from all over the United States and overseas inquiring about red flannel underwear. There was much more publicity than they expected. In November of 1939, Red Flannel Day was a bright spot in a time of war when people could forget what was looming on the horizon. That year, the town played host to thousands of deer hunters on their way up north to the deer camps. Merchants and clerks wore red shirts and hunting togs, and the town was decorated for the event. 5 men from Grand Rapids chose the queen from the candidates that were submitted to the Cedar Springs Clipper, our newspaper. After Red Flannel Day, orders for the red flannel underwear were received from as far away as Escanaba, Detroit, from other states such as Maine, Texas, California, Kansas, New York, Alabama, Rhode Island, Florida, Wyoming, and from Canada and Great Britain. They answered these, and news articles appeared in the New York Times, in the Chicago Tribune, Kansas City Star, Detroit News, the Michigan Tradesman, Atlanta Constitution, Life Magazine. We even ended up in People Magazine, Reader's Digest, Independent Woman, and even True Comics. And yes, there was a comic book written about Red Flannel Day. The Kansas City Star sent a reporter to interview the girls, and they were interviewed on National Public Radio. The Clipper girls helped persuade a young man named Gerald Ford to run for Congress in 1948. As congressman, Ford attended the Red Flannel Festival 25 times. His bus became a fairly common sight on Main Street, and the girls were always his faithful supporter. He went on to become vice president and then president of the United States. The Clipper girls worked hard to establish the red flannels as a symbol of Cedar Springs, and because of their hard work, Cedar Springs has become known as the Red Flannel Town.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. That's
Important
really
part of our
cool.
history.
No kidding. And if you'd like to get your own red flannel, you can go to redflannelfactory.com.
That's right. They'll send you in the right direction.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, memberships, are there membership levels?
There are. We have a single person, which is $10. For a couple, it's $15. Family, $25, and grandparents, $25. And a lifetime membership is $500. We just received one of those a couple weeks ago.
Oh, fantastic. How does somebody become a member? Do they call, or how do you want that handled?
If all we need is the name and address and the payment for whichever level you want to be, and send it to our address, Cedar Springs Museum, P.O. Box 296. That's Cedar Springs, Michigan, 49319.
All right, fantastic. What are the benefits of joining?
Well, you get the newsletter, and because you're getting the newsletter, if we are bringing in speakers or anything, you'll get a heads up early on what's going on here at the museum. Also, people that are members, when they see stories in the newsletter about early pioneers or families that have been here forever, will come to us and fill us in on their family history in the area. And they may end up being featured too in the newsletter.
Oh, fantastic.
We don't charge anybody to come in the museum. So it used to be that you had free admission when you were a member, but when the city and the Solon Township started supporting us, we promised that we would not charge people to come in. It was the only way we had during that time period to bring money in, or one of the few ways. But once they started supporting us, we promised it would be free to the public to come in.
Oh, that's great. I was reading that a benefit of membership is 1 hour of free research by the genealogist.
That's right. If you're a member, we'll do an hour of research for you. We typically charge $10 an hour. For the most part, most people, within an hour, we can find what we have in the library as far as their request goes for genealogy or whether it's something that took place in the town or whatever. But we have had people that have really gone in with multiple people, and it took us a couple hours to find. But typically $10 would get you a good amount of research.
Wow, that's nice.
And that membership has that free hour.
That's great. That's very good. Well, I encourage everybody to join the Cedar Springs Historical Society if you're not already a member. Now, you mentioned that speakers, you haven't had speakers in a while due to COVID, but you're thinking of starting that up again.
Mm-hmm.
For members that are outside of the area, are you doing those speaker engagements on Zoom, or are you recording them so that members outside of the area have access to this?
I have to say that we haven't recorded them yet, but that is a possibility for the future. I think it would be nice to be able to put something up on our webpage and let people just get on and watch what took place here. But we haven't crossed that threshold yet.
Okay. Maybe a future enhancement.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That would be great. That way people can join from all across the country, and if they're members, they can still have that benefit.
Absolutely.
Now, what kind of outreach and education does the museum undertake within the community?
We have obviously our connection with our area schools, with getting kids to come in here and have a good day with us. But we've also just recently started looking into a program where we would go into nursing homes and interview people in the nursing homes, but also offer to help them do a little research on their family history. And I mean, it would benefit them if they were interested in that, but it also would benefit us with our genealogy library. It'd be more that we could add to the library. Years ago, I used to go into the nursing homes and speak, and I have a group of really large pictures that I had laminated that I could pass around the room, and people could look at the old pictures of town and school and everything. So we'll probably get those out and use those again, and then see about interviewing some of our senior citizens.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. That would be great. There is a senior home right in town, right?
Actually, we have 3 of them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Plus get oral interviews and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Wow. And you do such good work with the school children and taking them into the Payne School.
Yeah, they love it. They get in the old, desks, and we have McGuffey readers in there, grade level 4. We have slates on the desk where the kids can do their lesson on a slate. We have a group, a church group that is going to come along, and they're going to run a program, The Amazing Race. It's like the TV show, The Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Where anybody from town can join, and they have to run around town finding clues and hints and everything to see who can get back to the starting point the earliest. And we're going to be a part of that. We'll have our one-room school open to be a part of that.
That'll be great. Is that this summer?
It's in May.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. What's your newsletter called?
Golden Times.
Oh, that's
Golden
great.
Times.
Is it available on your website?
I haven't put it up there. Again, that's one more thing that we're talking about, maybe posting it on. And if nothing else, maybe the older ones. We've been doing this newsletter for over 20 years, so we have lots of wonderful historical stories stored in them.
Oh, yeah. It's a gold mine.
Another part that we're adding to our website is all the past queens from the Red Flannel Festival.
Oh, yeah.
We had a gentleman that moved to town and was really amazed with our history and how everybody in town shows up in red. I mean, 10,000 people show up for this festival, the Red Flannel Festival, and he was just so taken back by how everybody got so involved and had such a wonderful, fun time with it. He wanted to start putting together all the queens and maybe getting them online. So anybody could look up a past red flannel queen and look at all the pictures from that year, what went on. And he sadly became ill and passed away, but one of the things his wife asked us to do is to finish his project, and we are doing that. We're almost ready to add it to our webpage, not quite yet, where anybody could look at a past queen. And
Oh, that'll be a great legacy. That's
Mhm.
great. Wow. Nice. Very nice idea. I know you're receiving artifacts all the time at the museum, but what kinds of records or historical artifacts has the museum recently received as donations from the public?
well, we get pictures all the time. People bring in old pictures of the town or people. We get a lot of postcards that show history. Postcards are a wonderful documentation of the history of your town. They were very popular from the 1800s on. We receive family histories and township histories and county histories to be added to our library. So I would have to say that the paper products I love because that's where all the written history is. And we do get that. We get old newspapers. One thing that we're so looking forward to coming our way is we actually had 2 newspapers that were published here in Cedar Springs. One of them, of course, was the Cedar Springs Clipper that we talked about, but the Cedar Springs Democrat was a newspaper that started up because the man, Max Sellers, that started the Cedar Springs Clipper was a Republican, and he didn't always promote anything that the Democrats were doing. So this young man starts up the Cedar Springs Democrat, and that ran, I think it was from 1889 to 1929. But in the process of these years, in the middle of these years, he wanted to marry a young lady from Sand Lake. And her father was a Republican, and he said, no way you're marrying somebody that runs a Democratic newspaper. So he changed the name of his newspaper to the Liberal, the Cedar Springs Liberal. And the father let the two get married then.
Oh my.
But to my knowledge, the only copy of these newspapers are in the Bentley Library at the University of Michigan. And we've begged and pleaded and everything we could think of to get them to scan the papers so we had access to them. And of course, they were inundated with items that they had to scan and other people wanted scanned. And I just received word a few weeks ago that we're on the docket. And they were going to discuss at the end of this month when they can scan those papers and get them.
All right.
Because it'll tell another side of the story,
Yep. That's excellent.
So
It'll
we are
have so
very
much
excited.
information in it. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Very
great.
excited.
No kidding. Boy, that's great.
Yeah.
Does the museum have a strategy for digitization of documents and photos?
We do. We just bought a document scanner. Again, our Sally Graybold, she's the one that has been here the longest. She's in her 80s. She bought us a document scanner, and we've already had people sitting here scanning photographs and postcards and books, and we'll keep going because once it gets into the scanned program, it's searchable. It goes up as the program is searchable by text. So if somebody's looking for a certain name or a certain building or whatever, we'll be able to search and find where it is in the collection quickly.
Oh, that's very cool. Wow. Good luck on that. Because I know you have thousands.
We do.
Wow.
It's a never-ending project.
How many artifacts are in the collection of the museum?
Oh, I wouldn't even know where to begin. We've been indexing everything for several years now, and we have about 30,000 entries, and it's not even the beginning.
Wow. A lot. Let's
Mhm.
say just a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's time for us to take a break for a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back.
Are you ready to be a part of something extraordinary? Dive into the rich tapestry of Cedar Springs history by joining the Cedar Springs Historical Museum as a volunteer. Picture this: a community united, working hand in hand to preserve the legacy of Cedar Springs. That's what volunteering with them is all about. Be a part of the restoration projects, where every stroke of paint and every carefully placed brick brings history back to life. Engage in research initiatives, uncovering hidden gems and untold stories that shape the town's identity. But it's not just about the work. It's about the connections you'll make and the impact you'll have. Join the dedicated team and become a guardian of Cedar Springs heritage. Ready to make a difference? Visit the website at cedarspringsmuseum.org for more information. You can also reach out at 616-696-3335 or drop them a line at cedarspringsmuseum@gmail.com. Visit the museum at 60 Cedar Street, Cedar Springs, Michigan. Join the museum, donate your time, and volunteer your expertise. The Cedar Springs Historical Museum welcomes you with open arms.
Oh man, there's nothing like getting out in nature for a hike. It's like minus 10 degrees today, but I tell you, I don't even feel the cold. What's that up ahead?
I think we're gonna die if we don't get some today.
We're out of coffee, Sam. Guys, we should have brought more hot coffee.
It's too cold out here. We just gotta get lucky today.
Oh man, it's cold. I hope we get something soon. I can't take much more of this.
You sure we brought enough ammo?
My glasses are fogging up.
Hey, watch it. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Hey, you guys. What are you all doing out here?
Well, to be quite honest, we're freezing our sweet keisters off, I tell you. We're trying to get us some of those sweet wild red flannel long underwears. This is the season for 'em. I'm afraid if we don't get some today, we're all gonna freeze to death around here.
Hey, move over a little bit, will ya?
I'm trying to stay closer together to stay warm.
Wait. You hear that? Off in the distance. Why, that's where I heard. Shush. Yep, Sam, am I dreaming?
It's so cold. I can't barely even think, but I do hear something. Yep, and it's getting closer. Hey, there they are.
Get 'em.
Let's get 'em.
There they are.
Right up there.
Let's get 'em. Right up there. Over there. Shoot. Up there. Hey, that one's mine. Look how red that one is. Beautiful.
Boy, they sure can fly. Hey, they're getting away.
Oh crap.
God, they're fast.
We missed them.
We're gonna die.
Hey, you guys. Calm down. Now, you don't need to be out here hunting them beautiful red varmints. All you need to do is to hop on the internet and cruise on over to redflannelfactory.com. They do the hunting for you. You just order what you need and it comes to you in the US mail a few days later. And in addition to warm and wild long johns, you can get shirts and all kinds of other things, even for your women folk. Now, let's get on inside before you do all freeze your keisters off.
Yeah. Let's get going.
Need to stay warm and comfortable? Head on over to redflannelfactory.com for the finest red flannel on the planet. It'll save you a whole heap of trouble.
I am General Matto Vandu Maximanus, from the planet you refer to as BD 114672C. I am the legate of the 2nd AB Picturesque B region, governor of the approaches to NU Octantis AB, Interplanetary Consul, Commander of the Legions of AB Picturis A, 91 Aquari B, Mu Leonis B, and Gamma Librae B, and I listen to Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Hey, welcome back to Preservation Oaks. We're here with our guest, Sharon Jett, the director of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum in Cedar Springs, Michigan. Sharon, this has been great. I'm so happy to have you here and welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Sharon, does your museum capture oral interviews?
We have in the past, and we plan to in the future. Once again, that was another thing that was turned off because of COVID. But I mentioned our program wanting to get into the nursing homes. But we have a member of ours that probably since, I'll say, the 1980s has gone back and interviewed people that are, have long gone now. But they were among the early people, early 1900s, that people that were here, and we have them on tape.
Fantastic. Now, are you bringing that forward so that you've got those oral interviews saved to current media?
I actually am working on that now. I have, I don't know, maybe about 6 of them, of the interviews on the computer now. I brought a program that would allow me to run the cassette tape and save it on my computer.
Fantastic.
So yes, we are.
Fantastic.
And the
That's
same, we
always
have
difficult.
some interviews on VHS tapes, and we're transferring those to the computer.
Yeah, I know that's always difficult.
Mhm.
Technology changes and then you've got to bring it forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But they're so valuable.
They are. There's so much history that would have been lost without these oral interviews. One of the men that Sally Grable interviewed remembered his father coming here when it was nothing but the Native American trail that through the woods, and stopping at that little log cabin that was the Pioneers Hotel, as the history books refer to it. So, here it's just more documentation that little hotel was there, and people stopped there to stay while they're out looking for a place to settle.
Wow, think about that. You've actually got a memory of that. Wow.
We do.
That is amazing. I know you care deeply about your volunteers and the team that you have there at the museum.
Mhm.
What kinds of volunteer opportunities does the museum have for members and the public?
Well, of course, we have the indexing, and if we make it comfortable for people. If somebody doesn't want to type, but they're comfortable with going through documents or a book or something and writing out the names that we wanted indexed out of that item, we have somebody else that will sit down and type up what they've written. We have several men that have always taken care of our building. They fix things when they need to be fixed and display things when we need them, something new put up, or they help us move heavy items. So it can be anything from working in the library, help and take care of just little maintenance around the place. We always make coffee and cookies, and that's what we feed our volunteers with. So that we always make sure that we have our kitchen is supplied here, and we have people that'll shop for us. So there's just so many little things that make this such a wonderful, cozy place.
And so many good people.
I'm telling you, like I said, you're only as good as the people around you. And we have the most wonderful volunteers, generous, kind, with taking care of, visitors that come in and taking care of the building. And we are very, very fortunate.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
How does the museum interface with other organizations like state and county and regional societies and organizations?
Well, we belong to a group called the Tri-River Group, And it's a consortium of small museums. They meet once a month. Our Nancy Starr, our treasurer, she attends the meetings. And what this group does is we share whatever is successful for us. If we run a program and it turns out fabulous, she makes sure she shares that with the group. And they do that with everybody too. So that's one major thing. Of course, we stay in touch with our state library and archives because we go there and do research quite often. So we're involved there, and we're members of the Michigan Genealogical Society, and in the state library, we're members there too.
Oh,
We
fantastic.
just try to keep our fingers out there.
Right. And do you share artifacts with any of those organizations?
We do not, but we have talked with the Grand Rapids Public Museum. They actually have a hearse from Cedar Springs. It's the great big old horse-drawn hearse with the glass windows on the side. It was here in Cedar Springs up until I think the 70s, and the family that had owned it, they had been a family of morticians here from the 1800s. They donated it to the Grand Rapids Museum because at the time we didn't have a museum. We were just about to end up with our little one-room schoolhouse as a museum, but it could have never handled that hearse. And the Grand Rapids Library or Museum has said that they would allow us to display it if we could get it in our building. It's a possibility. I don't know if we could get it in our doors yet or not, but that is a possibility that we may borrow from them.
Wow.
We have borrowed in the past smaller items for displays and then returned them.
And that hearse came from Cedar Springs.
Yes. We have pictures of it on Main Street. In fact, for probably 20 years, it stood behind one of the buildings, just it was kind of a grassy, weedy area behind one of our buildings, and it sat there all those years. But it's magnificent to look at, very ornate and in perfect condition.
Wow.
I wish it was here.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And was it built in Cedar Springs?
That I do not know. I kind of doubt it, but I wouldn't know that for sure.
Yeah. Very cool. I hope you do get it someday.
Yeah, it would be fun to have it. And they like you to keep something for at least 6 months to a year, so they're not changing out stuff, especially something that big. So we would have to really do some rearranging to get it in here. We'll try.
Or build an addendum on the building or something, right?
I think our city council would faint if I asked to do a building project.
We would like a temperature controlled addition on the building for a hearse.
Yeah. We'll close in another porch here.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, that's very cool. I hope that works out. Now, what kinds of interesting books has your museum published?
Oh my gosh. We have been busy bees when it comes to publishing books. We did a cookbook. It's called What's Cooking in Cedar Springs. And we gathered recipes from families and their grandparents and great-grandparents. And then we got the idea that we would put a little picture with each recipe so people have an idea of maybe who it came from or what family it came from. So it's also kind of a little pictorial history of people from the area.
Yeah, nice.
It is. It's a pretty big book. We also published a book, the Railroads of the Cedar Springs area, and that is a pictorial history, and that's well over, I think it's 150 pages of a lot of our railroad pictures dating all the way back to the 1800s. The railroad came here in 1867. So there's a lot of pictures in that book and history, and we had a very well-known railroad historian, Jim Winslow. He helped us put together the book and gave us many of the pictures that were in the book, and we've sold hundreds of copies of that book. It's for railroad lovers, it's a good find. We published, I think about 4 years ago now, we published a book called The Making of a Town. And once again, it's 250 pages, and it's picture after picture after picture. What we did was we went down Main Street, and every building or every lot, if the building wasn't there anymore, We covered the history of not only the building, but the people, the pioneers that came here and established their businesses, even after we had a major fire here in 1884 that burnt half the town down, and how the town was rebuilt and who rebuilt it, and lots of pictures. And one of the very end of each building, at the very end of each building's pages, we say what we see today, and we show a picture of what's there today, and then also maybe some other businesses that were in that building that we didn't feature in the articles. So that's quite a historical book. We've probably sold 4 or 5, maybe even 600 of those books already. And then we had a high school principal here, John Cody, who was a Native American historian, and he published a book called The Legends and Story of the Michigan Indian, and he allowed us to print and sell that book as a fundraiser for the museum. It's full of legends, Native American legends from the area. They were actually given to him by a Native American mother. John Cody had helped her son through high school, really tutored him and everything, and she gave him those legends as a gift for what he did. And he also wrote a book called Memories of a Farm, and that was growing up on a Michigan farm. And he allows us to print and sell that book. And one more from John Cody was Daily Diary of Andrew McDonald. He was from Company B out of Lowell, Michigan in the Civil War. And it's the publication of his diary during the Civil War. And I believe that's what we have.
Very cool. Nice books.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good reading.
Anybody across the country would be interested in those. And are
Yes,
those
and
for sale? You can get those just by contacting the museum?
Yes, and if you look on our webpage, I think most of them are still on the webpage, but if you don't see something I've mentioned, go ahead and just send us an email, because we do have copies of everything that I just talked about.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there any resources, books, or tools you'd recommend for further learning about the history of the area?
Well, there's another book that was published in, I think it was 1976. Two ladies, Sue Harrison and Donna DeYoung, took on the project for the bicentennial years of publishing a book about the history of Cedar Springs, and it's called the Cedar Springs Story. I don't believe there are any for sale, but every once in a while one pops up on eBay, and they did a fabulous job on the book. It's a really good history book for the area, the whole area. And many libraries have copies of the book, so you might be able to check it out of a library.
Cool. Very cool. Maybe it's available on Google Books or something.
Yeah, I never looked, but it might be.
Yeah, you never know. I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the museum once more. The website is www.cedarspringsmuseum.org. They're on Facebook at Cedar Springs Historical Museum. The mailing address is P.O. Box 296, Cedar Springs, Michigan, 49319. The visiting address is 60 Cedar Street, Cedar Springs, Michigan, 49319. You can email them at cedarspringsmuseum@gmail.com, and you can phone them at 616-696-3335. The reason I mention that here is because we're about to talk about the museum's website. Sharon, what kind of things are available to do? You've mentioned a couple of things, and you've also mentioned some things you'd like to do to improve the website, but what kinds of things are available to do on your museum's website?
Well, we have a lot of written history on there. Give you an idea a little bit more about the town itself. Payne School, that has its own page. And also our genealogical library. There's just a very small sampling. I mean, it looks large on the website, but compared to what we have here, it's a very small sampling of what's available here in our genealogy library. I did put a few things up during COVID for kids that were at home on doing online schooling and everything, a couple of activities for them to do. And that is an area that I hope to develop more in the future. I would like to get more activities that especially kids could log on and do about their own town history.
Well, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe coloring stuff.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you mention that because we do have a few pages that we started trying to put together to make a coloring book, all from old pictures of Main Street. And I was looking for buildings that were recognizable today so the kids could color an old picture, a picture of what it looked like, in the horse and buggy days.
Yeah. That'd be way cool. What's the easiest method for members of the public to donate to the museum?
Probably the easiest thing would just be, if you wanted to donate funds, it would be to send a check. And if you have an item that you want to donate, either bring it in if you're close. If you're not, I get stuff shipped to me from all over the country because people have moved away over the years. Just go ahead and hit us up on our email, and I can let you know how to, if it's something that we can have here, I can let you know how to ship it. We get our mail through a post box, so I usually have any item shipped to my house or to our treasurer's house, so it doesn't get turned back at the post office for some reason.
But if you want to put a check in the mail, you put a check in the mail and send it to P.O. Box 296, Cedar Springs, Michigan, 49319.
Yes.
Fantastic. That would be great. Everybody, put a check in the mail.
Thank you, please.
Yeah. You mentioned attracting younger people. How is the museum attracting young talent and skills in your volunteer pool?
One way is, of course, through our paint school and our little one-room school and interacting with our area schools. But our high school allows high school students to earn extra credit and a notation on their certificate if they do community service. So we've had quite a few high school students that come here after school and volunteer their time. They've done indexing, they've helped us put up displays, they do all kinds of work. And they really love it. Every one of them that comes here has a lot of fun, and we keep them coming back. We've had a college intern here. Her professor actually asked if we would be interested in taking more students, which of course we said yes. So we're hoping that we can work something out with him again.
All right. Fantastic. Yeah, you got to keep the kids coming. Yeah, because they've got skills that you guys need.
Yes, for sure. In fact, we had a Apple computer donated to us, and of course I've always used PCs, so I didn't know where to even begin. And thank heaven we had our little high school volunteer coming in, Emma Pritchard. I asked her if she knows anything about Apple computers, and she says, yes, I can help you. So she did. She trained us, and good kid.
That's great. Now, can you tell the audience about any current initiatives or needs of the museum that you want the people of your area to know about and support?
I would say anything for the genealogical library. If you have old books, county histories, township histories, plat maps, items like that help people when they come in here to research. I would say anything like that. I would really focus on, for the time period, I would focus on the library and anything that is going to help people with their genealogical research or Michigan history research. We have quite a bit of Michigan history here too.
Okay, thank you. What are your thoughts about how best to keep history and community support flourishing for the current generation, the K through 12 kids?
Well, I learned a big lesson with our display on electronics. I can't tell you how many kids come in and go straight over to that display once they enter our big main display room. They're just drawn to it. And we also have it's a unit where when you used to call in on the telephone and the operator would plug you into whoever you wanted to talk to. And we're trying to get that operating so that the kids can actually make a call inside the building, but using that old device.
Yeah, the old switchboard.
Switchboard, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Use the old switchboard. And I really think doing hands-on with kids is important, like our wigwam and the items that they can handle around here. I have signs around the museum that say, you may touch, but please be gentle, so that they know it's okay to handle something. We have an old typewriter that kids are just floored that's how people used to type, on this big old iron typewriter, but they can stand there and type on it. So I think hands-on and stuff that brings the past into the future really hits home with some of our younger people.
Fantastic. Now, why is the museum important to the community, and what makes your organization different or unique from others?
I think because our only agenda, of course, is preserving the past and sharing it. We're easy. We're easy to get along with. We're easy to be around. And the stuff that we offer is fun and interesting. And to, when so many people that are in Cedar Springs still were born and raised here, and so were their parents and grandparents. And for them to come in and see what it was like for their parents or grandparents, it's really eye-opening that, and the grandparents that bring their kids in and say, this is what we did, or this is the school we went to. We have almost all of our yearbooks from the whole history of our school here in town, and kids will come in and they look up their grandparents' picture in the yearbooks. And I just think we're real and we're easy. There's no tough agenda here. I just think that's important. It's how we keep our history alive.
That is very important. Very important. Be approachable, be out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What would the priorities and goals be if the museum had enough money and volunteers and didn't have to worry about those things? How would things be different?
We would be open more. We would have a full-time paid director. I would like somebody with an education in history and museum science and could carry this museum further and maybe be young enough to have more energy to do it too, because, a lot of our members are older. So I guess it would be to have that foundation under us where we could operate full-time and just get more classrooms over here. And I think it would be really different if we had more hours.
Yeah, because right now you're open one day a week, right?
Yep, we're open Wednesday, 10 to 5.
Yep.
And upon request, which we do open quite often, people will call and say, can I get in? And we've been playing around with summer hours, opening Saturdays. And we also occasionally do genealogy classes, and we usually run those on Saturday.
Oh, okay. And you're about to, light up again speakers and programs and things like that, and maybe the car show. And so you're going to get more active here coming up. But you're right. I think you're right. I think it's time, with everything you have and everything you've told us about the artifacts and things like that, it would be great to get, a director that's there full time. Yeah.
I would hope that we could get somebody in while I'm still around, because I would like to share some of the things I've learned over my 44 years. And we've got other people that have been here many decades too. And I know they would like to be able to share and guide somebody that comes on board.
That's a great vision. Yep. What's it going to take to make that happen?
Money.
Yeah.
It's what it always comes down to, isn't it? You need to have, a good financial foundation to be able to operate and to be able to pay somebody. People need to be able to earn a living. We've done really well with volunteers, but we really need to we're at the threshold where we need to be able to pay someone full time.
Makes sense. I was reading that your genealogical library is called the Betty L. Heiss Genealogical Library. Who is or was Betty L. Heiss?
She was and is a very remarkable lady. She just turned, in October, she turned 100 years old. She's in a nursing home now. She retired from us, but 25, so maybe even more years ago, she came to one of our meetings and she said, Sharon, I've always wanted to be a librarian. I would love to take care of your library for you. And I just about cracked up laughing, because we had one bookcase and I don't think we had 20 books in that bookcase. And I said, Betty, you got it. You're the librarian. Let me tell you, that little lady took that one bookshelf, and we had to keep moving her because she kept getting more material in here. And of course, we did have microfilm. We have 114 years of our local newspaper on microfilm. But she had kept growing that library to the point she's got the whole end of our first building that we built here is our library. And we even had people come here from the Grand Rapids Genealogical Society to do some research up here. And they were just floored at the material we have. We have collections of books about the Civil War, about the Michigan Pioneer. That's a set of books that was started in the late 1800s by the Michigan Historical Society, a rare collection. I mean, we have surname files, we have family histories and county histories, and it's just unbelievable what is here. And all because of that sweet little lady.
Fantastic. And she's still with us. That's great.
She is 100. She turned 100.
Wow. What excellent work she did. Wow.
She did. Forever grateful we are.
Well, I'm glad you named the library after her. That's
And
great.
we did it while she was still here because we have pictures of her holding her sign up that we put up in the library.
I'm going to ask you a difficult question.
Yeah.
You're a serious lover of history.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the world will look like in 100 years?
Oh my gosh. I hope it's wonderful. I hope it's not scary. I hope that all the good things that we have, that we're coming up with, technology, AI, travel, I hope that it is all for the good and that it stays for the good. I think that our cars will probably be all self-driven, not by people. I don't even know what our flight will look like. I think it will just amaze the world. I hope that we end up with more people like Bill and Linda Gates that take their treasure, their hard-earned money and do more good for the world and not just try to get more for themselves. I hope that there's more people like them that will take care of our planet and our people. And I hope people will love our earth and each other. And I asked a lady about 20 years ago, she was almost 100, and I asked her what was the biggest change she had seen in her lifetime. And she told me that it was air travel. She said, to think, I grew up getting in a horse and buggy and taking, 2 hours to make it down to Plainfield in Grand Rapids. And now you can get on a plane and go across the country in 2 hours. She said, it just blows my mind. So I kind of think the same way. Remember when we were kids, we watched a cartoon called The Jetsons. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're kind of there. We're on the threshold of living in space and having our cars drive themselves. And I really think technology is going to take the world over. I hope in a good way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate your answer. Is there any other information or any message you'd like the community or members to know about?
I would like people to know that Cedar Springs is a warm, kind, friendly community. We care about our kids. We care about our senior citizens. We care about having fun on Red Flannel Day, and I would hope that people would come around and check us out, and maybe even only thing you can do is join us on Red Flannel Day. I would hope that you would come and join us then. But we really have a wonderful little town here.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful place.
Thank
I
you.
was on the map app and looked at videos of Red Flannel Day. Several videos actually online. It's quite interesting and very fun.
It's a sea of red on Red Flannel Day.
I want to thank you, Sharon, for spending the time with us today. I've learned a lot about Cedar Springs and about the warmth and the beauty of the area and of the museum. I've had a great time. I'm really glad to meet you, and I wish you great success in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad, like I said, for you to have found us, and it's really been a pleasure working with you. I thank you very much, Sean.
And with that, we'll end our time with our guest, Sharon Jett, the director of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next. As we conclude today's episode, I find myself immersed in the spirit of Cedar Springs, guided by the steady hand of Ms. Sharon Jett, the memorable director of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum. With an impressive tenure spanning 44 years, Sharon's unwavering commitment to preserving the town's heritage stands as a testament to her dedication and passion. Through her eyes, we've been granted a glimpse into the heart and soul of Cedar Springs, a close-knit community brimming with warmth, kindness, and a deep-rooted sense of camaraderie. Sharon's poignant words echo in our minds as she invites us to discover the essence of this charming town, where care for children, reverence for seniors, and the joy of Red Flannel Day unite residents in celebration. Sharon's personal connection to Cedar Springs, rooted in her ancestral ties, fueled her passion for preserving its rich history. Since her arrival in the 1970s, she's been a steadfast guardian of the town's heritage, nurturing its growth and evolution with unwavering dedication. From its humble beginnings in the 1850s as a wooded enclave with natural springs to its vibrant present, Cedar Springs embodies the spirit of resilience and progress. The Cedar Springs Historical Museum, nestled within the serene confines of Morley Park, serves as a custodian of this legacy, offering visitors a glimpse into the town's storied past. Yet as we peer into the annals of history, we are reminded of the museum's pressing needs. With a burgeoning collection of artifacts, the prospect of a new storage facility looms over the horizon, a testament to the museum's ever-expanding reach. Sharon's plea for support resonates deeply, urging us to donate generously to ensure the preservation of Cedar Springs' heritage for future generations. At present, the museum's doors are open to the public only once a week, a limitation that Sharon shared a vision to overcome. The dream of a full-time director, supported by the community and empowered to enrich the museum's offerings, beckons Cedar Springs to action. Through increased funding and community engagement, Cedar Springs can pave the way for a brighter future for the museum. Amidst the ebb and flow of time, Cedar Springs continues to grow and evolve, embracing new horizons while honoring its past. The addition of a new amphitheater and library stands as a testament to the town's enduring spirit of innovation. And within the display areas of the museum, Guy White's innovative electronics exhibit offers a glimpse into the march of progress, a fitting tribute to Cedar Springs' ever-changing landscape. As Cedar Springs looks to the future, I hope they heed Sharon's call to action and rally behind the vision of a thriving museum, open more often and brimming with opportunities for learning and exploration. Together, the people of Cedar Springs can write the next chapter of the town's story, honoring its past while embracing its bright tomorrow. I urge you all to lend your support to the Cedar Springs Historical Museum. It holds a truly special place in the community and deserves your collective backing. Sharon and her dedicated team are exemplifying excellence, demonstrating an exceptional spirit, fostering community integration, and showcasing a remarkable level of engagement and pride in the museum. It's truly inspiring to witness. As Sharon wisely remarked, you're only as good as the people around you. Let me assure you, you should all take immense pride in what has been achieved here. You are fortunate to have nurtured such a wonderful institution. Thank you, Sharon Jett, and the team working with you for your unwavering dedication, and to all who contribute to the preservation of Cedar Springs' rich heritage. It was an honor to get to know you. Until next time, everyone remember to cherish the stories of the past, for they are the foundation upon which our future is built. The contact information for the museum, you can reach them at their website at www.cedarspringsmuseum.org. On Facebook, you can find them at Cedar Springs Historical Museum. Their mailing address is P.O. Box 296, Cedar Springs, Michigan 49319. You can visit them at 60 Cedar Street, Cedar Springs, Michigan 49319. You can email them at cedarspringsmuseum@gmail.com, and you can telephone at 616-696-3335. Now, if questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the museum via the contact information we just provided. If you're a listener in the area the museum serves, or if you're a listener researching ancestors in the community the museum serves and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting them. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the museum is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer their members and the public. I'm here to tell you the Cedar Springs Historical Museum, located in Cedar Springs, Michigan, is truly one of our nation's preservation oaks. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, Sync Hits, Track Tribe, Coral Cobb, J. Hunger X, Tim McMorris, Ann Tracto, and Scott Holmes. MicroStream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit us at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by MicroStream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of MicroStream Radio. Hey, thanks to everybody for listening. This is Sean Thomas Radcliff. We'll see you all next time on Preservation Oaks. And until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.